Very good. I'm just going to press that guided button. Thank you. So if you're not familiar with AARP, AARP is the nation's largest nonprofit, nonpartisan organization dedicated to empowering people to choose how they live as they age. With nearly 38 million members and offices in every state, plus Washington, D.C., Puerto Rico, and the Virgin Islands, AARP works to strengthen communities and advocate for what's most important, with a focus on healthy security, financial resilience, and social connection. Now, today's program focuses on financial security, which is part of our social agenda. Who's in the audience today, Jacqueline? Who do you see?
Oh my gosh, we have the whole nation covered. We have Rochelle from New York City. We have Charmaine from Mission Viejo. We have Sophie from San Jose. We got Susan from California. We have people from New York. We have Ellen from Pennsylvania. Oh, we have some Brenda from Louisville, Kentucky. Everybody's here today for this important session.
Oh, well, thank you so very much. So I'm excited. We're getting ready to get started. And thank you so very much, Jacqueline. Now let's take a quick moment to answer our trivia question today. And then I'll ask Jacqueline in just a minute, did anybody get that answer? So our trivia question today is, how heavy is the world's largest piggy bank? Ooh, the largest piggy bank. 1 ton, 3 tons, 5 tons, or 7 tons? That's a lot of tons. Put it in the chat, you guys. I'm kind of excited. What do you think? 1, 3, 5, or 7? Jacqueline, do you see any answers coming in there?
No, of course. Lord, think of tons. Wish I had that much money. Ellen thinks it's 7. Bridget thinks it's only 1. Jeff says 7. Someone else says 5. So what's the answer, Joyce?
Okay, you ready for this? 7 tons. 7 tons. So the German savings bank unveiled the world's largest piggy bank, weighing a hefty 7 tons. Now, this supersized savings ornament was made of fiberglass and reinforced plastic. Now, the bank used the power of recording this record-breaking as a novel way to raise awareness of the importance of saving money among youngsters. Now, during the verification process to see if indeed it was the largest piggy bank in the world, they used a crane to insert the money into this piggy bank. Can you imagine a crane? And that wasn't even part of the 7 tons. Can you imagine all those pennies, nickels, dimes, and quarters? That's a lot of change. So thank you so very much, everybody, for participating. I would like to introduce our speaker for this morning. Now, today is the second of our 4-part series, Piggy Bank Essentials with Martin. Now, each quarter, we will be focusing on a different aspect of the money management. Martin Booker is a programs manager at AARP, where he leads various financial educational initiatives about investing, social security, and budgeting. After receiving a master's degree in social work at the University of Connecticut, Martin worked in a nonprofit sector in Washington, D.C., and developed a passion for helping people improve their money habits. He completed his certified financial planning program at Georgetown University and began to teach others about money in a practical and actionable way. Today, Martin offers individuals and group coaching services classes and leads workshops about credit, investing, retirement planning, and other financial related topics. Now, his goal is to engage and educate people to better understand how just to make their money, how not just to make money, but how to keep your money. Now, as part of our tradition, here are some fun facts about money. About 30% of Americans' household earns over $100,000 a year. Wow, that's a lot of money.
Mhm.
Now, just 7% of Americans are millionaires. Only 7 are millionaires. Now, New Jersey is a state with the most millionaires in the United States. New Jersey. Now, California, we just ranked number 7, but that's still good. And it costs more money to make a penny than it's worth. Do you know that every penny costs 1.7 cents to make? Well, let's welcome Martin.
Thanks, Joyce. Thanks for having me. I appreciate the introduction, and I'm so excited to be here with you all today. We're going to have a great conversation today about the money maker and kind of talking about about making money today. So we had a conversation last quarter about growing money. This is my third time with you all. Our first conversation was about daily ways to save, and so you can still go back and watch those as well. And today we're gonna, we talked about growing and how to grow it. Today we're gonna talk about making it. And this is not a bad time to talk about making more money when when we're seeing these gas prices and everything else, right? So this is a good
So
time.
Martin, so before you go through, I just want you to do your little part. And now we're gonna do a poll just to
Okay.
kind of get you warmed up, okay?
Gotcha.
All right,
Thanks.
great, okay. So now to get us warmed up today, we have 2 poll questions and we ask you to quickly submit your answer. So poll number 1 is, how have you adjusted to the increased cost of goods and services? What about cutting additional expenses, finding ways to make more money, or you haven't changed anything? Either 3, cutting additional cost, finding ways to make more money, or I have not changed anything. Okay, well, the answer is cutting additional expenses. Yeah, that's a good time for us to do that one. Definitely. So I appreciate that answer on that one. Great. Now our poll number 2 is, how does the increased cost of goods and services make you feel? Now, I'm not sure how long I can manage my expenses. I have adjusted and I'll be fine, and I may need to earn additional income. What do you guys think? Let's see, it's coming in. The answers are coming in. You're not sure, you have adjusted, or you may need to earn additional funds. Okay, so we will see what the answer is. I have adjusted and I'll be fine. Wow, that's good. So we talked about spending and saving. All right, so thank you so very much for participating at 56%. And Martin, now you can take it away again.
Sounds good. Thanks. And those poll numbers, it's good to see. I mean, it's very encouraging to know that the majority have adjusted, because this is definitely a tough time, right? And it's been an expensive time that we've learned. So that's encouraging to see that people are adjusting in some way and finding ways to cut costs. But today we'll talk a little bit about making more money. So that's going to be our conversation. And let me share my screen because I want to make sure that we can have a good conversation about this. All right. And at this point, can everyone see my screen? You can just shake your head. I'm guessing. Yes. All right. Perfect. All right. So this conversation today, as I mentioned, we're going to talk about the money maker. We already talked about growing money, and that was a great conversation. And that was mostly about investing and ways to increase the nest egg that you've already saved, right? So all the money that you've already accumulated, we talked about how to save it, or how to grow it after you've saved it. Now, let's talk about how to make more. And we're going to kind of focus a little bit on, because we know some people are very much naturally money makers and already just really good at saving. So, at making money. So we'll give some tips for those who want to make more and want to, kind of follow following the examples of those money makers. Then I also have some great tips for people who are already money makers, because we do have some things to learn there. And we'll round it out with just a little bit of a conversation about retirement planning, because all of these things are very much, it's a great way to lead into our retirement or think about retirement. Or if you're already retired, there are some great things that you can do to just continue to build and extend the assets that you already have, or create more assets in the meantime. So let's get started. So as I always have to just share with you all the information that we're sharing. It's going to be for informational purposes and very much general guidance, because we all know personal finance is very much personal, right? We all have our own stories. We come from different backgrounds. And if we want to get specific financial advice, you do want to talk to a financial professional. That's because you want to talk to someone who's seen your situation and who knows your story and who can give you direct advice based on based on where you are. So today it's going to be a lot of great information, but I want to make sure, I won't give you direct financial or legal advice in any way. So as I mentioned, today we're talking about making money. So if you came to the daily savings event that we did in earlier this year, then you heard me mention the four things that you can do with your money, the main four pillars when it comes to money, which is making it, saving it, growing it, and giving or spending your money. And I'll just quickly review the four. So when we talk about making money, the money maker, you are usually that person. Actually, I'm gonna do the money maker last, since that's what we're gonna talk about today. If you're the giver and the spender, you're typically that person who, you're always giving, you're always looking to serve others and help others. People know that if they're in a bind, you're the person to call, because you're going to help out. You're going to be there, and you're going to make sure that you're looking out for those folks. So while you've always been a giver, the one area of opportunity for you to think about is your savings and putting yourself first. Because just like they tell us on the airplane, you got to put your own oxygen mask on first, right? So you have to keep that in mind. Make sure that you're constantly taking care of yourself and that you've built your nest egg, or you'll look up and see that you may have given more than you should have at the time, and your nest egg may not be built. So just keep that in mind. It's great that you give and that you're always helping others, but you have to make sure that you're taking care of you. The grower, that's the person who's investing. They're always finding a way to put their money to work. You see your money as an employee. You say that, I got to send that. You went and made the money. Now you send your money to work as well. And you're always looking for more ways to grow your money and send it to work. That's me. I'm actually I'm a grower. And if you when I come down your lane, just put it in the chat. Say, that's me. This is exactly who I am. So I'm more of the grower. That's my space. I love it. So for the grower, it's great that we're always building. We're always increasing our savings. We take our nest egg and we grow it. But the area of opportunity for us is in saving, because we typically won't leave anything liquid because we like our money to go to work. So we may sacrifice that emergency fund because we prefer to have that money growing. Now, the saver, if you're the person that saves money, you are, in most cases, you won't spend much. Even if you have a budget, you don't have to use it much because you're not going to spend it. You are saving and watching your bank account grow. You like to see your bank account grow. The saver, one of my person I've met with before that was a saver, $30,000 sitting in their savings in their just regular bank checking account because they never spent their money. And it's just there. That was kind of how they operated. They would not spend, they just save and keep accumulating their money. The opportunity for the saver, though, is in investing. The opportunity cost that you miss out on because you've grown your money. You don't want to see it. You don't want to put it in the market and see it go up and down. You prefer to just leave it right where it is. But in that case, you're missing out on that opportunity to grow your money. So you save it, but you also have to grow it. As we know, sitting in a bank account, your money's not really growing much at all, and it's not beating out these inflation rates. So if you're the saver, we want to make sure that you're taking advantage of the opportunity to grow your money. And then lastly is the money maker, who we're talking about today. You are the person that most of your life, you've always done things to make money. You found opportunities to increase, to just to make more income. It may be entrepreneurial, or it could be even at a day job. You're the person who's really good at negotiating for your pay. You are always you're typically a high income earner, and you go after different ways to make more and more money. For you, the area of opportunity is going to be in savings. And we're going to talk about that today, because typically your motto is, I can make more money, right? And you're good at it. You always do it. So we want to make sure that we think through for the money maker. We want to make sure that you're constantly thinking about savings and ways to put some money away, even while you're making more money. So that's that area of opportunity for the maker. So let's talk about it a bit. So when we talk about the person, the money maker, some of the characteristics that come up, these are, and if you're a money maker, I'd love to hear from you in the chat. When you think about some of the things that have always pushed you and helped you to move forward, and take advantage of opportunities to make more money, put it in the chat. What are some of the things that come up for you? And even if you're not a moneymaker, some of the things that you may see in others, because some of you may have married a moneymaker, some of you may have a child who's a moneymaker, and you're seeing it, or friends, family, and you're like, yeah, that person's always making more. What are some of the things you see? Now, some of these characteristics, I'll say, they're not exclusive to the moneymaker, but these are some of the things that I've seen come up. Yes, that's a good one, Rachel, a risk taker, definitely. So, and these are some of the things. I've talked to a few people that I know that are money makers, and when we talk through it, these are some of the things that came up as they talked, right? So they're typically looking for ways to solve a problem or find a gap in a market. So they'll start a business. Once they see an opportunity, they're like, oh, let me take advantage of that, because I know that there's money to be made in that. They also talked about their lifestyle. I talked to one couple, and they're both money makers. And one of the things they said is that there was a specific lifestyle that we wanted, and the cost associated with it was a little, they knew what they needed to do to afford that lifestyle. So they continue to make more and more money. And the great thing about one of the couples I talked to is that one's an entrepreneur and one is not. So it's like when you think about people who make money, they're not always just self-employed. Sometimes for the one that's not, she constantly pushes and negotiates for higher salaries, and she'll take new jobs to get higher salaries because she's always willing to work and push for more. One of the things that came up was self-awareness, and they talked about the idea that just kind of knowing their worth and understanding that, hey, I'm a high performer and I want to be paid for that. I want to be compensated accordingly. And then on the other side, one of the entrepreneurs I talked to, he mentioned being self-aware and knowing his strengths and playing to those strengths, while also finding people around him to make sure that they helped him where he had weaknesses. So, these are just some of the things that came up. Some of the and the last one I'll mention is we talked about the idea of being okay with making mistakes and learning from them, and constantly, when you have failures, take them, learn, and then keep going and keep pushing. So, there's some really good ones there. And I'm seeing the ones rolling into the chat. These are really good. Just, so when we think about making money and taking advantage of opportunities, these are definitely the things that we're thinking about. So these are, some of the things to think about. And you may also have a lot of these qualities as well. Even if you're not a moneymaker, as I mentioned, these aren't exclusive to the moneymakers, but these are a lot of the themes that I heard when talking to different people who were in that space. So I want to share a concept where you may have heard of this, but they talk about this a lot in financial planning. So we would use this term, and you call people Henrys. And a Henry is actually, it's an acronym, and it's a high earner that's not rich yet. The whole idea behind being a Henry is that you're making the money, but you're not keeping the money. And that's the thing that we want to make sure that we're thinking about and that we are cognizant of, right? So if we're, the idea is that if you make it and you're in a position where you have a significant income, but you're actually taking on a lot of debt, you're spending a lot of money, that's a position where you've made the money and you're going to consistently make the money. But what you do with the money is actually more so what's hurting you. or what's keeping you from being in a position of building wealth and keeping some of your money. Because they say riches is what you earn, but wealth is what you keep. So you have to keep some of it in order to get there. But these are just some of the characteristics. So this last one I found to be very fascinating. So if the individuals that they consider Henrys, they make up less than 20% of households, but they account for 40% of the spending because they have so much money, but they're typically spending it. And I'll tell you, in this, one of the things that I've seen in more cases than not that will help you in situations like this is setting up some goals. You want to have some very specific goals that you want to reach, or and aspirations, so that as you're making this money, you can have an idea of what you want to do. So and I always say, for this information, as you're getting this information, I know you all, if you're in California, you are definitely in one of the tech capitals of the world. There's a lot of high income earners in California. So, if you're getting this information, share it with a family member, share it with a friend as well, because we want to make sure that, you may have, if you're not a Henry, you may have a cousin, a nephew, a grandchild that's one. And we want to make sure that they're taking advantage of what they're of the money of the resources that they're bringing in. Because if we set them up now, then when they are headed towards retirement, or when they're much closer to retirement, we'll make sure that they've made all the right decisions to be prepared. So keep that in mind. I like to think of these as intergenerational conversations. These are things that we can, this is information that we can pass down. So keep this in mind with the idea of a Henry, because that's, usually setting some really good goals is what's going to help you to make decisions and decide where you put your money. And I like to think about it like a GPS, right? If if I get in the car and I just start driving, usually the first thing that they ask me, if I'm going to a destination is, if I'm trying to go somewhere, is what's your destination, right? And that's what's going to drive us to get to where we want to go. And the directions that we take is going to be based on knowing a destination. So you can imagine if you're making money, which is like your vehicle, right? If you don't have a destination, then you're just going to drive that car anywhere that you can aimlessly. And that's what at times, that's what happens with our finances. We don't really have a destination or a goal. We're not planning to, pass down an inheritance to our family, or the idea of giving in a way that we've never gave before, or helping out, family members. But when we think of these things and we set goals like that, now we have a reason to not just aimlessly spend, because we want to save and we want to do other things. So keep that in mind. Those goals are really what's going to help you to get on. It's one of the really important steps to help you to prepare financially and start to have some focus with your finances. So now, income versus expenses. So thinking about that last slide, if you're a person making 100,000, it's a lot of money. 250,000, that's a lot of money. But if you make 100 and you spend 100, you're back to zero, right? So the idea, that what you bring in is important, but also what you spend is very important as well. So you want to try to aim to not spend as much as you make. And then one of the things if you want a good industry standard is 20%. Save 20% of all income that you bring in. And that'll be a good one for if you are an entrepreneur, or entrepreneurs, and the way that if their funds come in kind of sporadically. I always say when I teach this to youth, I always say for every $10 you make, you save 2. And then for us who make a little more money, for every 100 you make, save 20. That's so that's a way to think about it. So every, you make 100, really you have 80 to spend. You just know that I'm only spending 80 and I'm keeping 20 of every dollar I bring in. So that's a good way to look at it and a good way to think about it. So that you can keep some money. Now, one of the most important tools, this is one of my favorite things to do, and maybe it's because I'm a money nerd, but a budget. You give me an opportunity to put a budget together, to keep a budget, I am all in. I love having a good budget, because your budget really does, it's really going to drive what you do next, and what you're able to do. So if you're spending money, And especially at a time like this, where we're seeing these inflation rates, right? Our grocery bills have gotten higher. Our gas bills have gotten higher. Hopefully some of our utilities may be still set around where they used to be, but hey, if those went up too, we have all these new expenses. So we have to, laying it out in the budget based on our income, that's going to really help us to know, do I actually, can I still keep up with this, or do I need to make more money or cut more costs? I saw we had a lot of people who are cutting costs. So I want you to think about it. This is a quick sample budget. But when we think about the budget and we think about making or saving money, you want to make sure that you're in a position where, or you want to kind of think about it in a way where you're laying it out, and the first thing it's going to do is make you aware of where you are. If you look at that week 1 budget, and if this was so just a quick sample, but if this is what you were spending, then you'll see that balance at the bottom in green is actually negative. That person's, they'd end up spending a little more than they make out of that paycheck or out of that source of income. That's a good thing to know, because now they're aware and they can figure out, where can I, what can I adjust, or what could I possibly move in order to make my budget work, or to make my finances, to sustain my finances. And the first thing, seeing this and laying it out ahead of time, it's going to always help you out. And that's when it comes to budgeting, you do it consistently and just know it's going to be a living document. You may budget, and then you have to consistently change some things, because some of your costs may change, right? And then the other thing is to do your budget ahead of time. Try always, if I'm giving you a suggestion of how to do it, I'd say budget a month ahead. So try for a month ahead. So put all your set cost in, and then round up on your expenses and round down on your income. So if it's, a matter of your nails, the price of your nails may fluctuate a little bit. Sometimes it's 35, sometimes it's 42. Then I say make it 45. Call it 45 so that you can make sure that your expenses are never lower than your income, are never too low. Because if you get there and you pay 35 instead of 42, we're happy with that. We'll take that. We'll take that $7 difference, and then you change it in the budget. And since it's a living document, you can change it consistently. But you lay all those costs out, and then you adjust as you start to spend. But it's something to keep in mind, because it's going to be a great awareness tool. The other thing is that you can base your budget on your pay frequency. So if you get paid once a month, you can do all of these columns. You can just do one long column with all of your bills and all of your expenses in it for that one time a month that you're paid. If you get paid 3 times a month, you can break it up into 3 different sections based on the amount that you're bringing in and that time frame. And then the same if you get paid twice or 4 or 5 times a month. The one thing that I tend to tell people who are gig work, like if you are a gig worker, you may have a full-time job but also drive for you may also drive or do Instacart, something like that. I always say you can have a column for that based on the pay frequency, but then just round it down or up based on your typically what your lowest pay would be. So that budget can be based on what your lowest pay would be. So if you sometimes it ranges from 100 to 300. I would budget on 100 and then update it when I get the actual pay. And now it may be 250 or something like that. So and that's for the income line. So that's something to keep in mind. And then the difference, that line at the bottom that says balance, that difference makes all the difference for you. I always say you got to know, growing up, we always had to know 3 phone numbers. I always had to know my house number, my grandma's number, because that was the backup house. If my mom didn't answer, my grandma was going to pick up. And then the number to 911. I had to know the emergency number. Those were 3 numbers I had to memorize. And I always say, as an adult with finances, we have to know 3 numbers: exactly how much we bring in, exactly how much we pay out, and we have to know the difference and as best you can. And that difference makes the difference for you. Trust me. That's where, if you're trying to save money, if you're trying to invest, if you're trying to pay down debt, the difference between what you bring in and what you spend is going to be what's going to allow you to pay off things or manage your finances better. So keep that in mind. It's a very important thing. And then for your emergencies, as you're saving, you want to save for emergencies first. They say the idea is that you want to have 6 months worth of income for savings for emergencies. 3 to 6 months is what they say. But I always say, you know, sometimes that's a lot, right? If you're spending 4 or 5,000 a month in expenses, saving that amount is significant. So I always say pinpoint 1 or 2 things that you have to pay for, and calculate the cost, and then save that first. Think a tire. Think AC unit in your house, right? Think of how much that might cost and save for that first. That's a big emergency, but you save for that at maybe $2,000. You save that up. Tires maybe $400 or $500. Save that up, and then start to continue to save for those emergencies, and that'll be a great way to help. I realize I'm talking long, and I'm gonna have to speed up now. But I told you budgeting is my favorite. That's how I got stuck there. So sorry about that. Financial order of operations. I want to just quickly point out that so when it comes to money, first you have to make it, and then you save it, then give it, and then start spending. This is a suggestion, right? So when we think about how our finances, once we get our paycheck, the first thing you do is save your 20%. And then if you're a giver, then you can give to a charity or whatever, you know, church, whatever you tend to do, you give, and then you look at what's left and say, this is what I have left to spend day to day. Here's a couple tips for the moneymaker, because as I mentioned, with the moneymaker, one of the things for you is that you tend to just know that you're going to be able to make more money. You're really good at it. So one of the things that you have to do is continue to think about your savings rate and how much you're saving. And you want to increase that consistently. So that 20% is, of course, a great start. But then as you make more, you know, you can think about opportunities to just save more and continue to save. And automatic savings is always a helpful way. That's the best way to save. I set my automatic savings for payday. So the day the money comes in, it goes right into a savings account. That way I don't have to see it, because I'm going to try to grow it if it's up to me instead of saving it. So something to keep in mind when you get like bonuses. You know, some people, you may get a bonus, or you may get, you know, tax money back. When you think about the first thing to do with those, try to save some, put some money away. The first instinct might be to go and put it into another real estate deal, or, you know, do something like that. But just make sure that you're thinking about your retirement. If you are a high income earner and you have the opportunity, max out your retirement savings. Continue to invest as well. You want to constantly think about ways to also grow your money, because we know that you can make it and you can make more, but you want to consistently think about growing it. And the lifestyle creep. We know how it happens, right? You start making a little more money, and then you say, you know what, now I can go ahead and get that spa membership. And you've added that spa membership to your daily expenses. And, you know, just parts of your lifestyle are continuing to become a little more expensive because you found more and more ways to spend. As I mentioned, for the moneymaker, you have to grow your income. I mean, you have to grow your savings as well. These are some different opportunities to grow your money. I want you to constantly think about different assets that you can buy. That may be a good way to do it. The same way we talked about with an emergency fund. Pinpoint a different asset. So as you make money and as you save it, you may think of a new thing that you're going to purchase that's going to continue to grow for you. So stocks, you may buy vehicles and use that as an income producing asset. Whatever it is, you want to make sure that you're constantly thinking about different assets that you can buy so that you can continue to grow your money as well as make it. So keep that in mind. And these are for opportunities for folks. Some of us aren't natural money makers. I'm not a natural money maker. I'm good at growing it, but not a natural maker. So for you all who are not natural money makers, these are some of those opportunities and things that we can take advantage of. Additional work, more employment, stock market, you know, trading in the stock market. You want to make sure you're very educated on and know what you're doing before you do some of these. But, you know, they talk about with jobs, you know, if you keep a job, they say after 3 years at a job, if you're not consistently looking for new opportunities, you're actually losing money by not changing jobs, because jobs will tend to pay you more as you move on. I have a friend who's definitely a job hopper, and when they hop, they are consistently making more and more money. So I'm not telling, especially the AARP employees, we have to stay. But the changing jobs, it is one way to kind of increase your income. Now, if you look at these things on the right, these are actually very specific things that you can do. And at a time like this, when we're talking about making more money and trying to find ways to beat out inflation, These are some very specific things. Merchandising. That's what, if you ever go into like a Costco and you see folks that are passing out samples, they work for a company that merchandise, that will allow you to merchandise, and you can do it. It's very flexible. You can pick your schedule and you go in and you hand out samples and things. And that's just like a part-time gig to help you bring in some money. So if you were looking for something to bring in a little extra cash, that's one thing to think about. Event support. I remember during my entire time in college, I used to work for an event company, and they would just need to bring in staff to help staff. You would need to they would bring in staff to just like staff different events. So we would just be event support and help out, but it would be, you know, kind of sporadic. If you can do it, you take it. If you can't, you don't. But it's a good way to just make some extra income. Same with renting out a good work from home job, or renting out a vehicle. If you have if you have two cars, you may have had one that you had a child or a grandchild drive and they went off to college and now it's just sitting. You could use that on a site like Toro or something like that in order to make money as well off of a vehicle that's just sitting. And it's a good way to kind of to make some additional money. And then selling items that you use to when you're decluttering your house. And we think of all the sites that they have that will allow you to sell items. You want to be careful with those too, though, because we have to make sure that you're not susceptible to scams in those cases. So then, and then this quote, this is one of my favorite quotes, and it's something that I try to live by. You play to your strengths and you staff your weaknesses. And the idea behind that is that if I have something that I need to, if I'm really great at something, I work at that. And the things that I'm not great at, I hold off on those, and I make sure that I find people, support systems that can help me do the other thing. So if you're not a money maker and you're more of a saver, then maybe you partner with someone who is a really good money maker and you just invest in it, right? You bring some funds to the table so that they can help you to grow your money, and you can continue to save it. But it's a great opportunity for you to continue to build and partner with someone, because you may have the capital, they have the wherewithal, the ideas, the grit to just go out and make it. So you two together can be a strong team. So keep that in mind. And I'm gonna stop right here. But play to your strengths, staff your weaknesses. So if you don't want to become a money maker, you go find you a money maker and y'all partner up and you go and increase your assets.
Wow, that's so exciting. Thank you so much. That was a lot of information. And it's something that gives me now to start thinking about it. And hopefully a lot of you can start thinking about some helpful tips, some helpful ways of making money and saving money. So right now, Jacqueline, let's go over the chat a little bit. Let's ask Martin some extra questions. What do you see?
Well, he touched on this a little bit, but could you touch a little bit more? Is the stock market really a good way to make money is a question. I know it goes up, it goes down.
Yep. It's you can make money in the stock market, but just know, as you just said, Jacqueline, you can lose money in the stock market too. So it's not necessarily, what I always tell people about the stock market is that if you're in a position where you have to make more money, you may not want to immediately look at the stock market as your income generator, unless you're like trading and you're and you understand how to trade and know how to trade, because there are ways to make income in the stock market, but you have to make sure that you've done your homework, you've studied, and that you're really aware of how to do it. And if you need money fast, the stock market, because it's a tricky space, you may not want to jump in there with all of your income or all of your savings to try to make more money fast, because it could blow back on you. And even when you're trading, they'll tell you in moments of desperation, you want to pause. You may not want to trade because now your emotions and your behaviors are going to be different. Your mindset's a little different. So you could go into it and mess around and lose more than you planned on losing, because you're in a space of desperation. In those cases, a part-time job or gig work may be a better opportunity.
Oh, thanks.
Good.
Go ahead, Jacqueline.
Another question is, you always hear people who really have money or supposedly have money say that they don't use their money. So does it make sense? When does it make sense to hold on to your savings, your money, and borrow money for projects or large expenses?
That's a great question. That's a really, really good question. And it's one, when it comes um, to borrowing versus using your own cash to make more money, I always say you have to, you want to be careful, of course, because there's going to be some interest and there's going to be you're going to have to pay in. You're going to have to pay for borrowing other people's money, right? So usually, just like a credit card, we use someone else's money, they want some interest, right? They're going to have us pay back some interest. So you want to be careful. You know, as far as when to use or versus when not to use it, it's gonna really depend on your risk tolerance, your ability to pay it back. And if you have a really good plan, you have to have a really well thought out plan to make more than you're gonna have to pay in interest before you want to take on the debt to start any endeavor. So that's one of the things I think about is just, how well thought out is your plan? How much have you, what's the amount that you need to take in order to run this business or whatever it is that you're going to do. And then if it's for starting a business, I always make sure that people know, take advantage of your grants and your other resources as well. And AARP has a great um, um, small business center. We have a small business resource center at AARP. And in that small business resource center, they actually talk about ways to get grants. They also talk about opportunities to fund your other opportunities to fund your business. So you want to make sure you're thinking about those and you've done your research there before you've decided to borrow, because you may have been able to get some free money as opposed to money that you have to pay back.
Good point. Can you discuss a little bit making mistakes with money? And how do you get to the loss of
making some of those mistakes? Yeah, so one of the getting over the loss, I tell you, it's heartbreaking. I tell you, that is a heartbreaking situation. One of the things, so when I think about that, one of the first things we think like the mistakes, I'll say it's a matter of I tend to see the biggest mistakes in times of desperation. And it's in those moments when you're in a position where you really need money, or you really need to increase your income, you really need to pay off some debt, and you're trying to find an opportunity to take advantage of. And it's almost like, there's a lot of predatory companies, there's a lot of predatory loans, and their entire focus is to catch you at times of desperation and at times of high need, because they know that's when you're going to be interested. And they've been taught how to sell and how to do anything possible to get you to sign up for something or pay for something. So I've seen some of the predatory loans that people have taken just in times where they're just like, hey, I really needed money in this moment. So I took this loan. So that's, but in those moments, I'd suggest that everyone, if you're ever in a moment of desperation financially, look into your financial empowerment centers. They have them in California and they have them nationwide. It's called financial empowerment centers, and they're a good place to start because they have financial coaches that can walk you through, some decisions you can make. But they also, because they're nonprofits, they may have access to resources that you can take advantage of. And you want to make sure that you're kind of starting in a place like that before you make the decision. The other thing I'll say is in moments of desperation, if someone brings an opportunity to you, make sure that opportunity is vetted. Run it by somebody first, because whoever's bringing you that opportunity, they probably have been taught how to sell you whatever they're trying to sell, and they are going to be good at it. So make sure that you have a conversation first with someone else. Get a second opinion or a third opinion. It's just like with our health, right? We'll go get a second opinion with our health. If we don't like what they're telling us to do, we're going to talk to another doctor. So make sure that you do the same with your finances and with money-making opportunities. So talk to someone, run it by them. And the other thing that you should do is sleep on it. Take at least 24 hours at any time. I say do that with big purchases, but do it with big opportunities as well. Sleep on it. You might wake up and say, you know what? I just didn't have my coffee this morning. That Phil's coffee that Atisha had today. You just may not have had your coffee this morning. And now the way that you were thinking just wasn't the way you should. So those are just two things to try.
Savings accounts don't have the best interest rates. How can you find better rates to grow
That's a
your
good
money.
point. Yes, that's a good point. All right, so there's two quick things to think about to look into. One, there's a thing called high yield savings accounts. And high yield savings accounts are typically with online banks. And the reason that they can offer you a higher interest rate than a regular bank is because they don't have brick and mortar locations. They're not paying for lights. They're not paying for, for maintenance and cleaning. So they can tend to offer a little bit higher interest rate than other banks. So that's one to think about. The other thing is low risk investments. There are investments when we think about, and by no means am I saying that you should go and get into these. I just want to share some education, and you want to make sure you're doing your research before you get into them, and make sure that it's the right product for you. But the other thing you can look at is low yield investments. When we think, low risk investments, bonds, annuities, CDs. These are all things that where the risk of losing money is very low, but they will give you a little bit of a higher yield on your savings. So, but they usually may want to lock your money up a little longer. So, that's one thing to consider or think about. So those can be helpful. But to that point that I just made about making sure that you talk to someone, AARP, we have a tool called Interview an Advisor. And with that tool, you can actually, we make sure that we are educating you and protecting you from working with the wrong type of advisor or the wrong person, right? We want to make sure that you're working with someone that has your best interest in mind. We want to make sure that you're talking to someone who has worked with individuals with that's similar to yours, right? Like if I only have 100,000 and I'm talking to someone who's only worked with people who are millionaires, we may not have the best advice. They may not be able to tell me the best thing, right? So I want to talk to somebody who's been closer to me. So, we have questions in there. We have interactive ratings so that if you talk to someone, you can find someone. But you can also start with those financial empowerment centers because they are typically free of cost. And they may be able to point you in the direction of some investments and things like that.
We have one more question. Just one more question. Okay.
Yeah, so I was gonna say what about T-bills? Are they a good option?
Treasury bills. I'll be honest. So I'm not as versed on T-bills. I don't know them as well, so I won't provide any information on them. But I would say go to aarp.org/money. And in the search column, type in T-bills. We've likely wrote an article about T-bills. The other place to look is investopedia.com. It's my favorite website. It's like an encyclopedia for everything about money. It's a great place to go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I know we said there was one last, but there is one question that's really kind of, if I can ask real quick.
Okay.
Wants to know is losing money in her retirement account due to the market. Should she withdraw to prevent more loss or leave it? And I know that's a direct question, but
Yep. And Susan, I won't answer that directly because I don't have enough details, right? So that's something you want to take to an advisor so that they can really look at your case. The one thing I will say though is remember, and like you say, you are in retirement, so you're much closer to that point where you may need those funds. But remember that you have not lost in the stock market. You have not lost until you sell. Right. So it's not until you withdraw that you've officially lost that money. So if you had 100 and it dropped down to 50, if you have the time to wait till it gets back to 100, then you haven't lost. But the moment you pulled it out, you lost the $50 if you withdrew. So that's one thing to keep in mind. But in your case, Susan, what I will say is you should definitely sit with an advisor. Look at an interview an advisor if you need to find one. But because if you're losing money and you're already you said in your retirement account. So I'm not sure if you are retired, but if you are retired, then, we'd hope that your investments were a little more conservative so that you're not seeing much of a drop. But if you're close to retirement, you want to talk to someone because they may be able to give you some great advice. And the only thing I'll say is that in the market, we've never seen we've never seen more than two down years in a row. So like we've seen, if we had negative years, we haven't seen more than 2 in a row. So if you have the time to withstand, then you can wait it out. But if you don't have the time, you want to talk to someone so that they can give you the best advice.
Thank you. Thank you, Martin. Joyce, back to you.
Oh, these were some great questions. And oh my God, I'm so excited. And I'm sure the information that was shared by Martin and others, you'll be able to put it to use. Also, if you check your link, there's an AARP Small Business Resource Center link in there, so you can be able to go back and look at it again, okay? So thank you so much again, Martin and Jacqueline, again, for all of your help. Now, before we close out, we'd like to take a quick pulse with another poll. And our next poll would be, now that you've learned a bit more about the different styles of money management, which money management style fits you and your habits? So are you considered a money grower, a money maker, a money saver, or a money spender? And Martin went over all of those, and I'm sure one of them hit your fancy. So which one do you think it is? Oh, I see the answers are really coming in. Either one, a grower, a maker, a saver, or a spender. Wow, look at that result. 74% of you are savers. This is good. And then you have a couple of spenders, 16% makers, and 16% growers. Oh, wow. Thank you so much. No, it's very interesting to see all of the money growers, makers, savers, and spenders in this Zoom audience today. So again, I thank you for all of your time. And hopefully some of these tips you'll be able to use. Now, we hope you feel encouraged and inspired to utilize all of these tips and discover everything else that you need, and also the money maker in you. Now, glad you can join us today, and we invite you to attend other events that we're having. Now, our very first one is the Tea and Coffee Tuesday. Our next event is July the 12th at 9 a.m. So join us for a conversation with Emergency Readiness with Preparedness Manager Melissa Altman from the Red Cross. Preparedness topics will be things such as what to pack into your to-go bag, how to get the latest safety news, how best to communicate and connect with loved ones, and what to expect if you end up in an emergency shelter. Our next one is Piggy Bank Essentials with Martin, part 3. I'm sure you're definitely going to want to come back for that one. Are you a spender, saver, or a moneymaker, or a grower? And Martin Booker, of course, we talked about that he is a member of the AARP Financial Resilience Team. And on that date, which is Thursday, the 29th at 9 a.m., he will show you how you can keep moving when it comes to your money saving parts. So that's great. Thank you so very much. Now, if you have any questions or suggestions, please contact Atisha Jones. Her email is right there in front of you. It's always good to have everybody to come in again and ask questions and add comments or even make some suggestions. So let us know how much you enjoyed our program today by completing the survey. And you'll see a link in the chat, or you could use the QR code on your screen. Again, thank you so very much. And to our guest, Martin Booker, oh my God, you were absolutely fabulous again. To our volunteer production staff, Jacqueline, to our tech specialist, Connie, to our AARP staff, and of course, you, our audience. Again, thank you. My name is Joyce Howard. I was so excited to be your host for this morning. And again, this will conclude our program. So have a great evening. Stay safe and stay